Good morning. It is October the 15th of 2024, and we're going to be in Proverbs 15 to sync up with that date of the 15th. So let's start out with verse 1. Verse 1 through verse 7 has a note. So we'll read the verses, then we'll go back and check out the note. Verse 1. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of fools pours forth foolishness. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but the perverseness in it breaks the spirit. A fool despises his father's instructions, but he who receives correction is prudent. In the house of the righteous there is much treasure, but in the revenue of the wicked is trouble. The lips of the wise despise knowledge, but the heart of the fool does not do so. And we look down at the note, and the note says, highlighting the power of words and the use of the tongue, Solomon contrasts foolishness and wise people. Hateful words can cause great emotional damage, but positive, encouraging words contribute to a person's emotional health, producing life-bearing fruit. Words that are perverse or subversive can break the spirit. And then it gives some more verses you can go check out. We're going to jump back up to verse 1 because there's an independent note on verse 1. We'll read that verse again, and then we'll go to that note. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And then the message, or the note on it, says, mean-spirited words are the slowest and most venomous of toxins. A person that ultimately brings down two lives, and nearly always one's tone of voice makes the difference. This is why Solomon says, so wisely counsels a soft answer in response to someone's wrath. Okay, now we're going to jump down to verse 4. We've already read it, but we're going to go back to it because there's an independent note on verse 4. It says, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit. The note says the word wholesome here is the Hebrew word for healing, restoration, and cure. Can also mean calmness. Now we'll go down to verse 8 and pick up there where we stopped. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. The way of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but he loves him who follows righteousness. Verse 10. Harsh discipline is for him who forsakes the way, and he who hates correction will die. And we look at the note on verse 10, and it says, wisdom's instruction is not always pleasant. Acquiring wisdom often requires discipline and correction, as God's people wander from the way the Lord intends for them to take. While discipline is rarely enjoyable, it can mean the difference between life and death. Most certainly. Now we are on verse 11. Hail and destruction are before the Lord, so how much more the hearts of the sons of man? A scoffer does not love one who corrects him, nor will he go to the wise. A merry heart makes a cheerful countenance, but by sorrow of the heart the spirit is broken. The heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge, but the mouth of fools feeds on foolishness. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but he who is of merry heart has a continual feast. Better is a little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure with trouble. Better is a dinner of herbs with love, where love is, than a fatted calf with hatred. A wrathful man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger always contention. The way of the lazy man is like a hedge of thorns, but the way of the upright is a highway. Verse 20. A wise son makes a father glad, but a foolish man despises his mother. And a note on verse 20 says, a foolish son not only fails to make his father glad, but likely laughs at his parents. Despises may imply that the fool is callous toward his mother. Verse 21, folly is joy to him who is destitute of discernment, but a man of understanding walks uprightly. Verse 22, without counsel plans go awry, but in the multitude of counselors they are established. And then there's a note on verse 22, says, seeking wisdom from godly mature Christians allows believers to increase their understanding of God and his ways. And we pick back up on verse 23. A man has joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season, how good it is. The way of life winds up for the wise, that he may turn away from hell below. The Lord will destroy the house of the proud, and he will establish the boundary of the widow. The thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but the words of the pure are pleasant. Verse 27, he who is greedy for gain troubles his own house, but he who hates bribes will live. You jump into the note from verse 27, it says, the problem with wealth is that it is never enough, no matter how much a person gets. He or she always wants more. Many wealthy people throughout history have reported that at some point, even the money itself takes a back seat to the all-consuming game of getting more to accumulate more. It is a cycle that inevitably leads to destruction. Wow. Let's go to verse 28. The heart of the righteous studies how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours forth evil. Verse 29 has a note. It said, the Lord is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayer of the righteous. And verse 29's note says, the book of Proverbs speaks only a few times about prayer, but its one message is that true prayer belongs to the righteous. God's people get their prayers answered. The Lord does not hear one's prayer from the unbeliever. However, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. Verse 30, the light of the eyes rejoices the heart, and a good report makes the bones healthy. And then verse 30 has a note as well. It says, a positive outlook, the light of the eyes, creates a ripple effect. It spreads joy to others and produces encouraging words, all of which create a healthier environment at work or home. Verse 31, the ear that hears the rebukes of life will abide among the wise. He who disdains instruction despises his own soul, but he who heeds rebuke gets understanding. The fear of the Lord is the instruction of wisdom, and before honor is humility. And that wraps up the chapter, but inside the chapter, beyond the notes that I have in the footing, there is a section called Words Matter, FYI, Words Matter, and it is on verses 1 through 7. So once again, I'm going to read verses 1 through 7, and then we'll take a look at this FYI, Words Matter. So verse 1, chapter 15, a soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue of the wise uses knowledge rightly, but the mouth of fools pours forth foolishness. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on the evil and the good. A wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness is in it breaks the spirit. A fool despises his father's instructions, but he who receives correction is prudent. In the house of the righteous there is much treasure, but in the revenue of the wicked is trouble. The lips of the wise despise knowledge, but the heart of the fool does not do so. Now let's look at this FYI, Words Matter. These verses highlight the importance of speech, namely its ability to lead others to knowledge. Chapter 15, verse 2 and 7, and bring healing to relationships. Conversely, speech can be destructive when used recklessly or harshly. Speech is a concern taken up in other parts of Proverbs besides this passage, and is as important theme within the book. For example, the book highlights the dangers that come with endless chatter and unbridled tongue. In contrast, it highlights the importance of speaking the right thing at the right time. Proverbs also notes that speech can be an asset to a righteous man in need of help, whereas a wicked man's words can eventually become trouble. Finally, Proverbs concerns itself not only with those who speak, but with those who listen. While there are adverse consequences for ignoring instruction, disaster can result from listening to and accepting what is false. Indeed, Proverbs cautions against accepting anything that is said without careful discretion. In sum, one of the regular reminders of Proverbs is that words matter. They are powerful and must be weighed carefully by both speaker and listener. The wise do this well. So that was an interesting little note. The FYI section, I have not included those in days past, and going to, when those pop up, I'm going to share them in days to come. So we're going to flip over now to Ephesians 6, verse 10 through 20, and we're going to put our armor on, y'all. And it says, the whole armor of God. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, being watchful to this end with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints, and for me, that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that in it I may speak boldly as I ought to speak. As you may already know, or as I said yesterday morning in my study, that this is pre-recorded, but I'm glad y'all are come in and checked it out, and hopefully it helps you face your day. We have our armor on, ready to face whatever God and this world throws at us. I want to challenge you guys to go be a blessing for someone else today. God bless, and we will see you live in the morning.